what did you see, food and wine wise specifically? What did you see as the big trends this year? Now that your big season's finished,
this past year, interestingly, there's been a big swing towards and away again from homemade wine, where everyone comes to the table going, we're going to do our homemade wine. We talked to the wine place. Just blanked out, sorry guys. And we're all excited, and then they get more into planning and they start to learn about the hidden fees and the things they don't think about when you're bottling your own wine, like licensing and insurance and corkage fees. And then they're coming back to, well, what is the venue now offering for wines as opposed to bringing their own? But then when they're looking at those wines, they're not trending towards the house wine always anymore. That's a big thing I'm noticing, especially with kind of the younger millennial hipster.
Now, why is that?
Why are they not?
Because they think house wine's beneath them?
No, I think in our experience, especially in the venues here that we're working with, a lot of them are using lower quality wines as their house wines. Wines that, like when I worked in hospitality, we used to use it for cooking only.
Okay, so they're choosing, some of the venues
choosing
here,
a better wine.
They're choosing wines here at the venues based on price point, not that they're always going to be good by the glass.
It's not even about price point per se, because they're still budget conscious. Wedding clients are always going to be budget conscious and aware of where every dollar is going, but they're recognizing that just having the cheapest bottle of wine off the shelf is not necessarily the best.
Okay.
Not saying that there aren't great, affordable wines as well, but they're choosing to choose other wines other than what the base kind of host wine is at the venue.
Okay, so are the venues being receptive? Do they have an extra wine list to choose from, or are they letting them just pick anything as long as it's coming in through the license?
A lot of it is just as long as it's available through the license, they'll bring it in and then they'll calculate a price according to. Because the lists aren't necessarily, it depends on where you're going, right? We've got a fabulous venue here in town where they've got a sommelier in-house and he does all of their wine buying from everywhere. And so they've got an amazing list. So when I did an event there, we had no problem finding something on the list for them. But the vast majority of venues have maybe...
Is that Mark?
It might be Mark.
You can give him a plug because he's going to be in an upcoming episode anyways.
Okay. Mark Fredicchio has like the best wine list in Sudbury.
Yes.
So we had no problem working with our clients to find a wine that suited their palate. But typically with our hotels and some of our other venues where they don't have quite the same knowledge in-house, the selection is pretty limited. So our clients are going to the LCBO and they're finding their favorite wines or finding a comparable kind of a wine at still a decent price point and choosing that instead. So whereas in the past I used to see everyone was just taking the house wine and they were going with it, we're seeing more discernible palates so far across the board.
Oh, that's good. I'm happy to hear that, though.
Me too. Actually, to be honest, with that one glass of wine that I let my staff have, it's nice to have a nice glass of wine versus drinking vinegar.
Oh, I hear you.
There is that.
I have consumed some swill at the end of the night over the years. And usually by then you don't care, or you think you don't care, until you finally sit down and put your feet up for 2 minutes.
And you go, I can have a glass of wine and go, this was not worth it.
Yeah, I'll so wait till I get home.
Exactly. So that's one big thing.
Okay.
Food-wise, I don't think we're ever going to get away from the chicken and beef mentality. We do live in a community that is very chicken or beef. Every time I start with clients and we start to deviate from that and I get a little bit excited about food, they come back to, but my family wants chicken or beef. But they're being more creative, at least, with their chicken.
Well, that's
options.
a start. That's a start.
Exactly. So that at least is exciting. We're not getting your typical, what we call, wedding chicken with the
white cream sauce.
With the steam. Or no, lately it's been roasted red pepper sauce, which doesn't really taste like red pepper, so it's more like tomato soup on chicken.
Okay.
But, that said, we've had some great stuffed chickens, not like the chicken Kievs that are frozen.
Sorry, I'm just betting you that roasted red pepper sauce is actually the soup. You know that everyone's doing a roasted red pepper soup, which has got a half tomato base in it?
that's what it is.
Huh. Okay, sorry.
So, but I had a client who did, she did chicken parmesan, and she did a beef tenderloin. With mushrooms, and it was amazing. That food. Now, interestingly enough, it's a hotel that had a restaurant attached to it.
Okay.
And the restaurant was doing the catering, and you could tell by the creativity in the food and the fact that the chicken parmesan had a fettuccine with it, and the beef tenderloin had a garlic mash with it. So it was a better meal because it was more I guess, more restaurant-y, for lack of a...
Well, it's not the standard, yes, where you do chicken, beef, or fish, and everyone gets the same size.
Everyone
regardless.
gets the same roasted potatoes and the steamed broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots.
California mix.
Yes. Which is okay if it's oven roasted and you get some flavor to
as
it.
opposed to the big frozen freezer bags.
But as opposed to the freezer bags that are steamed or boiled, they're not so awesome. So in that regard, at least they're being more choosy about the actual food that's going on the plate versus just doing what I joke about as being hotel chicken and hotel prime rib.
I hate prime rib. I used to vent. Oh my God. And it's not because the thing that most bridal couples always seem to forget, actually anyone who ever ordered prime rib for a large group, is that you have so many different people with different tastes on how they like their beef, and the amount of prime rib that you have to go through to make sure that everyone's got their medium rare or what they think is medium well or whatever, you end up with a lot of waste. So if you're in a hotel where they're always doing prime rib stuff and they can have a use for the extra cuts that aren't getting used, that's different. When I was catering, it was off-site, or if anyone's going to be planning a wedding and they're planning to do it off-site, so going to their cottage or in backyard weddings or any place that doesn't actually have its own staff or its own catering facility, you're kind of making a custom menu, and you're paying for all the food for the full amount was brought. And it didn't matter. I mean, I would get rave reviews to the people who loved it rare, and then the people who liked theirs cooked more, they're like, well, what do you mean you can't just go and cook it more?
Yeah.
Because I don't have a kitchen here.
Well, and they don't. I mean, with a plated meal as well, when you've got 150 to 300 people in a room, it's not like each person's going to get to choose how it's done.
No, but
you're going to get whatever plate they put in front of you.
That's what everybody wants. And so I've been successful over the last couple of years that I was doing big weddings, that I was kind of talking them out of it, saying I'd rather them do beef tenderloin individual portions where I can control the size, the weight of it, and I can actually make them all to medium rare.
Do them all to a medium-ish.
You do medium to medium rare, and then if some of them have to be cooked a little bit longer, it's easier to cook it more than not enough, right?
Yeah.
So you have a little more flexibility.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, that was just my little vent about prime rib.
And that's the thing, and I think we've talked about the last time when we were talking about things, and I said that the venues, I think, have to step it up in what they're offering to clients as well, because couples don't always come in knowing this, right? They're not all working with a wedding planner with a background in hospitality. They're not, they may not be foodies per se, so they're really looking to the venue and the caterer to provide that guidance. And if they're still only offering plain chicken with roasted red pepper soup on top, or
like they have for the past 10 years,
exactly.
Yeah.
Then the couple isn't going to may not necessarily know any better. It's the more discerning clients, or the ones who work with a wedding planner like me, who's like, okay, please don't serve us crappy chicken and whatever.
And that's the whole thing. And especially if you're going to a wedding in your own community and you start to know the same halls and the same food places.
Yeah.
When you see that your event that you're going to is at a certain place, when you start to be able to guess the menu before you get there, that's that they've basically been stuck on the same thing every time, right?
Exactly.
And it's predictable for the people who like predictability. The ones who don't want any change, they want to know that, oh, that's where the wedding is. That means I'm having this, right? So it's good. All right. Food served. We'll keep chatting. Okay.
Yeah.
So what else are you asking about? So we were talking about the food stuff. Now, is everyone still doing? What's the trend more? Buffet or plated?
Take care. Have a good night.
You too.
Sorry, chewing.
This wouldn't be a food themed show if we weren't eating and drinking.
My clients trend towards plated. A lot of that push comes from me.
Good.
The reason I push it is the last thing I want to see is women in beautiful long gowns, big kind of accessories and hair and whatever, slopping around with a plate of food, or having to line up for food. Don't get me wrong, I love a good buffet. I love the selection. If I'm going with my family, with my husband who likes to eat a lot, buffet is where it's at. But when it comes to weddings, that's one opportunity to sit down and have a nice meal delivered to you, unless you're doing a market kind of style wedding, which is a completely different.
Like stations. Well, if there's a theme behind it,
Yeah.
and it makes sense.
Yeah. But a buffet for buffet's sake It used to be the cheapest option, so people often were going for the buffet because it was cheaper. And I think the caterers and restaurants have figured out that it costs a lot more to do a buffet, so they're now charging accordingly. And when I explain to people, it doesn't cost any more to have your meal served to you, they're more interested in it.
And I think that's the whole thing. They think that they're spoiling their guests more by having these massive buffets of food, but they also don't realize that you're paying for sometimes double the amount of food because the caterer on the other side has to budget because people waste. Oh my God.
So much
food. I mean, after so many years of catering to people and giving them, like even 3 courses, when people are moaning and groaning at the end, but then I see those same people at another event and they're at a buffet, the amount of food that's left over on their plates and stuff,
it's gross.
It's because they want to take everything.
Yeah.
So it's not really spoiling them anymore.
Well, no, it's first of all, it's making them line up for their meal, which makes me crazy. That whole, who's going to get to the buffet line next? What game are we playing to get people up to the buffet? And again, fun in certain circumstances, just for me, not at a wedding. So, but even the food that you're getting, buffet food tends to sit a little bit longer.
Yep.
If you happen to get there when it's the bottom of the chafing dish, you're getting the bottom of the chafing dish instead of a fresh, nice meal for every person.
And take it one step further. If you're at a place where there's no kitchen and they're not baking or heating it to fill and to replace those chafers at the time, you end up with just stuff that's been sitting in a warmer for another hour or two.
Yeah.
And that's why you end up with like 3 stations full of potatoes or whatever, because health unit requires you're only allowed to be keeping those things warmed for a period of time. So we have to put out everything all at once, and then nothing looks messier. It's the buffet's twice as long as it needs to be. And it's a lot of the same dishes on either side.
Yeah.
And it ends up with 3 dishes of, I used to laugh at the ones that had like a pasta that had a protein in it.
Yeah.
Or I would do almost like we had a New Orleans type theme thing once, so there was like a rice with shrimp and everything else. Well, everyone kept picking up the shrimp. So I ended up with like
all
3
the rice left
I had
over,
3 pans of like
pasta
just rice at the bottom.
Is it tasting
Yeah.
fine?
Yes, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, it's about setting. The thing is with a wedding, and certainly that way I think in restaurants as well. But with a wedding, it's about putting on a show and creating an experience for your guests. So you have to think about what kind of experience you want to create for your guests. Do you want to create an experience where they're all lining up for their food and yapping with the guy from shoving at elbows and they're gonna drop the fork, they got to go back, or do you want an elegant feeling of being spoiled? When you're hosting I host people in my home. Sure, we do buffet on the counter every once in a while when we do Thanksgiving or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think of that when I'm thinking about, again, a celebration like a wedding.
That's the whole thing. Wedding should be a step up. Right? So just because you know that most people in your family are always going to go out to eat and eat Caesar salad and pizza does not necessarily mean you have to have only just Caesar salad and pizza.
Very much. And I think the other thing as well too, if you're looking to offer that variety and letting them kind of choose what they want, family style is still a real option. A lot of venues don't like it. I know. A lot of caterers don't like it.
Coming from the food side of it, I hate family style.
But from a guest perspective, it's still a nicer way to have a few more choices around the table as opposed to having to line up for your food.
It is a compromise, so you're getting away with not having to do the lineup thing, and yes, you're getting served. However, pricing wise, it is still the same as a buffet. As long as people realize that, because I've actually seen people empty the platter onto their own single plate, and then like not even save any. Like the plate doesn't even get around to anybody else. There's been a lot of that kind of thing over the years, and unless you happen to have sufficient backstock waiting to go, or especially when certain things were basically cooked a la minute at the last minute, like it's always been a bit of a dance. No, it's always been a bit of a dance. So as much as I like the idea of family style, as long as people realize it's not going to be cheaper.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. You're getting married, you're hosting 50 to 1,000 people. It's not a cheap day. And it's funny because I've been accused of not being a budget wedding planner, and I'll admit I'm not. because I need to get paid for my time. And I feel that, and all due respect, I feel like vendors need to get paid for their time and their expertise as well. So now I'm not saying you can have a wedding for $500. Two of you can go hire an amazing officiant, have a beautiful day, maybe have your family potluck
cheese platters,
and have a lovely afternoon. But if you're looking for a traditional 3-course meal with a dance and entertainment and a full ceremony with decorations, it costs money.
Yep.
And I think the one place you don't want to cheap out on is your food, because you want people will talk about the entertainment, they'll talk about the food, they may talk about if it was really disorganized and things weren't where they were supposed to be, or people didn't know where to go.
They're way too long, or
They will never remember the color of your chair sashes. And with all due respect, I love my decorator friends and I owe them everything because I won't do decor. I like to do concept, and I like to do colors and all that kind of stuff and design. But no, honest to God, if chair sashes have to go, it is not the end of the world.
And that's one of those.
I would trade chair sashes to not have steamed broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots. Stephanie's laughing because I talk about that all the time. That is so Canadian.
It's going to do a hashtag kill the California mix.
Yeah, so Canadian.
I don't think it's probably just Canadian either. I'm sure it's happening in.
I just found the big thing is when I lived overseas in Australia, I never ever saw California mix. Hell, when I was eating in California, I never saw California mix. But
I still understand why
on
they call
the
it California
flight,
mix.
I don't know either because it's not really Californian specific. But I remember on the flight back on Air Canada, because the food on Air Canada is always amazing. No,
that's a whole. I was gonna say we're gonna do a whole other episode on airplane food.
On airplane food. I got a lot of opinions on that. But they don't. So when I was coming back, I joked that I was coming back to the land of steamed California mix. And sure enough, on the flight, on the way home from Australia, my meal was chicken with California mix. And I said, that's it. I'm back to the land of steamed broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots.
I don't know where it came from. I guess that was considered exotic at one time. Who knows? Okay, so we've talked about, I mentioned about buffet and plated and family style service things. Are they still doing 3 courses?
Always.
In the same traditional format?
No.
Regardless of cake?
So, again, when I work with my clients, it's because I'm pretty specific with my clients. So, if you aren't advised by someone like a wedding planner, typically you're seeing people do 3 courses and having wedding cake with 100 cupcakes, and they're taking all those cupcakes home. So
nobody eats them.
Exactly. So what I do with my clients is I suggest one or the other. Do a dessert and just have a small cake for cutting with a few cupcakes if people want to snack later on. But if you're doing a wedding cake and you want to serve your wedding cake and you want your guests to enjoy it, don't order a dessert with your client.
And just have a good cake. Yeah,
I agree. Or have the caterer add, some fresh fruit garnish and some ice cream or something to go with your cake, as opposed to typically you'll see it's like a creme brulee or a cheesecake for dessert, and then you got wedding cake. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't get eaten, and no one wants to see it at late night.
No, that's the whole thing, is that everyone really loves that whole late night thing. That's a whole other topic. We'll get that in a minute. But I was just really surprised. I did do a lot of desserts as well, and I was surprised. My last year of doing my last wedding season, I think I forget how many weddings I did. I think I had 2 cakes. Everybody opted for dessert. There was actually a lot of couples that told me they don't even eat cake, so they don't want one.
I have had a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. I've had a number of clients, actually, that's the one kind of tradition that's kind of going by the wayside. Which, don't get me wrong, I love wedding cakes, and you can see some pretty amazing stuff. But when people are thinking about, I can get a wedding cake for $8 a person, or I can get a dessert for $8 a person, just gives them more selection.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's too bad because, I do love wedding cakes, and I think they're beautiful, and I love the idea behind them. And I think if I ever got married again, which I wouldn't be, but when I was getting married, I specifically opted for cakes. Of course, I made them myself, but I wanted to have, so I had a number of cakes. So instead of having just one cake, so they all had a theme towards them, and they were all on a display, but people had a choice of them. But the amount of cake, I was giving away cake at the end of the night.
Because you had dessert as well?
It was an evening.
Oh, okay. Well, my sister-in-law, when she got married last year, yes, please.
Did we want to order entrees? I won't fire them out yet, but...
Doesn't matter. I don't mind ordering it now if you want me to order it. We're just not going to have them yet, if that's okay. I'm going to have the mushroom pizza.
Mushroom pizza?
And I'll do the rigatoni.
Alla Norma?
Yes.
Yeah, I won't rush that order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you know where the tradition comes from? Why there's a wedding cake and why you cut the cake?
I remember. It's been a while.
It is the first domestic duty that you do as husband and wife.
Oh, yeah. Okay, get me in. That's a whole...
Right? Another reason why the tradition's kind of going by the wayside. I mean, it's just a picture that goes for tradition and upon tradition. I mean, I've had 2-3 wedding couples in my career who didn't live together beforehand. I know, right? And so that's actually where it comes from. So the idea that that's that first kind of domestic thing that you do together as a couple.
Sorry, I'm just giggling. I just came up with another podcast episode. I'm going to do an entire show on the traditional themes in the kitchen. So, you know, the traditional roles in the household for the entertaining and so that should be interesting. And I think I'm going to do that one as a dinner party.
Oh, that would be fun.
With couples.
I would say couples.
Some of them who are very traditional and some of them who are not.
Oh, amazing. We'll let the fireworks begin. Who's sleeping on the couch after that podcast? That's amazing.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Okay. So we asked about that. I asked about the dessert stuff. Okay, so late night. So we can talk about late night.
Okay.
Late night used to be, I still remember, and I think it's very sad that it's gone away now.
What's that?
I miss the little sandwiches.
Do you really?
I do. My brother and I still joke around about them. We used to call them funeral sandwiches.
Yeah, that's what we call them too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, nothing's better when you've been drinking all night. Maybe it's just because we're like sandwich people, but the end of the night when you're all hammered, like egg salad sandwich on white bread with the crust cut off at the end of the night
you
is
are revealing your age.
It is heaven.
Don't get me wrong.
My brother and I used to like pile a plate full of like, oh, we have to have like so many. It would be like the canned ham.
Oh no!
And there was some tuna, but the egg salad was our big tuna.
As you're saying it, it's like you're literally listing all the sandwiches that people hate. That's why they're not popular anymore.
No, but the interesting thing is that when I started my catering business and they were asking me to do a sandwich platter, that's why I made a classic sandwich platter, and I had tuna salad, egg salad. I put them on a twist, mind you, but I did tuna, chicken, and egg on that same classic platter with a couple of other roast beef or whatever. But I specifically did them because I wanted to take away that stigma
of what they were,
and because everyone, when they're in front of them, they like them. No one likes to make them, and you'll never go to a store and order it.
I think for me, and it could be like, this is probably very personal, because high tea is like my favorite meal ever, and to me that is immediate. That's like afternoon tea. Give me a glass of bubbles and a nice hot cup of tea, and give me my tea sandwiches. I'm good to go. But late night, after having a few beers, I want grease. I want greasy carbs. Oh yeah, something to absorb all that alcohol.
Yeah, I want this white bread.
It's not the same. No. My God, we never disagree. That is so unusual.
So, white bread, egg salad sandwiches. My brother's listening. He'll be like cheering me on.
And I'm trying to imagine my clients. So for your late night, I'm thinking egg salad, tuna salad, and ham salad. They'll be like, you're fired.
Yes. You can lean them towards. I said my versions are nicer. Actually, that's what I'll do at the end of this episode. I'll actually put my links to my versions of them. So now that I'm not catering anymore, I don't have to divulge my secrets. But yes, I'll do my egg salad, tuna salad, chicken salad, so that your people aren't going to be. They don't have to be bad. It's all a matter of what you're using, how you're making them, and everything else.
And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. Like talking about what your vision is, what is for you, makes you excited. That's what couples need to do with their late night, because they tend to really kind of kowtow to whoever the grown-ups are. I can say grown-ups because I'm not a grown-up. My parents are the grown-ups. And do the chicken and beef for dinner because that's what's expected. Late night is a chance to break out of what's expected of you and embrace your inner foodie.
That's exactly it. One of our favorite weddings that I remember talking to Alex and Brie about in an earlier podcast. I don't even know if that part aired or not, but we were talking about, actually I'm probably going to clip this in now. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to clip it in. But we were talking about the favorite events, and they were talking about this one wedding, and it was like this 5-6 course family style, like it was almost like a tasting menu type of thing.
Wow.
It was a beautiful menu, and then they had steamed hot dogs for their late night.
I love it.
Like old fashioned, like, you know, hot dogs in the, like little rotisserie up on the table, and they just all, like, we had I don't know how many different toppings, and watching the people getting them racing off the dance floor, and the DJ announced like hot dogs were ready, and it was woo.
Hot dog bar is my new favorite go-to for parties. It's fun and easy, and everyone gets excited about it.
Yeah, so it was fun, and you can actually rent those hot dog steamers at a rental company. So we had the steamers that rented, we steamed the buns and everything else and warmed the buns on the top. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was nice because everything was so formal for the first part of the night, and then just to go that detour of doing I think that's fun. Of course, on the other hand, I have told a lot of clients, those who don't have wedding planners, they tend to used to rely on me to be their pseudo wedding planner, and I used to tell a lot of them, especially when budget was an issue, late night you never know how many people are going to be there. So to prepay for a specific amount of people, you're guessing.
Yeah.
And you know your crowd better than other people do, but you always have to basically guess less than what's actually going to be, because people surprise you. Either they're still full from dinner, or they maybe have less food than you anticipated, or they end up having to leave early for whatever reason. So it's one of the things that either you're going to guess, and I usually say almost the most 2/3.
Our rule of thumb is half.
Yeah, and that for the late night, and then or I'd say, you know what, or wait and do a head count near the certain time, and then just order pizza.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of great pizza places that are not the standard pizza places.
As long as your venue will let you bring it in.
Yeah, and most of them have been okay with it. I know that I was okay when I was doing offsite stuff, as long as I knew in advance. That means I didn't have to keep staff on to the end of the night, or if they wanted to hire one of my staff to stay back and help clear, or just I used to pay guys, people to open the boxes and put them out on the table or whatever. That was fine, as long as I know in advance.
We have one venue in town that allows it, other than the city-owned spaces. But we're talking about hotels and function halls and that kind of thing. There's one.
Really?
Yeah.
So even hotels won't say?
No, definitely not.
That's too bad.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
Okay. Well, I always did offsite stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So don't get me wrong though, but when I've got clients in that space, we have a lot of fun with it. Like one year, they wanted, her favorite was McDonald's, and his favorite was our Golden Arch here in Sudbury Deluxe.
the Battle of the Arches.
We did a table full of, and we had so much food. We spent like $300, so it wasn't a lot of money. And we had like a mountain of Big Mac combos and a mountain of chicken dinners with fries and sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was, they had
chicken on a
so much food left, but it was so good. Like their guests went wild for it. I was like packing up boxes to send home with their guests. They were so excited.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, $300 is cheap for a late night.
It is. And when you think about...
And they had so much food.
That was amazing.
Yeah. So getting to do that, finding what you're kind of gets you excited about food, it gets you excited about, sometimes it's taking you back to the bar days if they're a few years ago or whatever. What was your late night craving, and go with it.
Okay, so let's see. If you're getting married again, what would be your late night thing?
Okay, so mine's different.
Now,
mine's different only because I did a wedding in England. And their go-to late night here, it's like pizza. Sometimes it's like fries or poutine, but typically pizza is a big late night here. There, it's curries.
Oh, yeah.
If I were to get married again and do late night, 100% I would do curries.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Because we had everything from goat and lamb to beef to vegetarian and everything in between, with naan bread and papadums and all the rice. Like, it was just amazing. Because again, it sticks to your ribs. It's healthy. Like, it's not like crap food either. And that stuff can sit and still taste good, whereas other foods will sit and not taste good after. So yeah,
thank you.
Curry, that would be mine.
Still working on yours?
I'm still working on it. Thank you.
Because while we were talking about that, I'm thinking like, what would I do? And I'm thinking the only thing that Norman and I, because we're not big late night eaters, we're night snackers. So honestly, I would love, especially if the venue would allow it, maybe I'll do it for like our 25th anniversary. But I will do homemade potato chips.
Oh, fun!
Like we're snackers, right? So to have all kinds of different, like the like popcorn topping type
Like the
things,
seasonings,
right?
yeah.
The seasonings. So you can have all the different seasonings. You can just have different kinds of vinegar, different kinds of salt. You can have truffle oil. You can have all kinds of stuff, and you just have big vats, and they're just making
Making the fries,
yeah,
making the chips.
Yeah, kettle chips.
That's fun.
Yeah, everything would be fun. Anyways, that's what I think we'll do. Now that I'm really actually starting to plan it out in my head, I want to do a chocolate chip buffet. But yeah, so if you think about the things that's important, and I've always tried to explain that to them. Same thing with the meal planning, it's the same idea. So if you really love a certain food, if you can incorporate it into your entree because you insisted it has to be a chicken
The
with beef.
expectations of the world.
If they talk to their caterer, or in the case they were talking to me, I would say, what are your favorite foods and how can I incorporate it into an appetizer or into your first course? Like I want to be able to, and so this way I have a nod to some of their favorite foods so they feel like they're having something special that day.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, look at us. I agree. I agree. You're right. No, you're right.
No, you're right. No, you're right.
You're right. Okay. So, we did that. Okay, so let's do...
Your potato chip thing is a good way into food bars, like candy bars and popcorn bars and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so is that still really big? Candy bars and stuff?
You know what? It slowed down this year a bit. Last couple of years, every wedding I had a popcorn or a candy bar of some sort. I mean, that said, my company offers them. We did 2 popcorn bars this year. Still popular with guests. Hugely popular with guests. And, you talked about doing the kettle chip kind of late night bar. This is something as well. Like I suggest you do it during your cocktail hour, you do it during your late night because people don't want popcorn all night anyways.
That's right.
I love an edible favor. I mean, I think that
I do too.
I talk to my clients about favors and they're leaning towards, oh, nobody likes those things. I'm like, but everybody loves edibles.
Correct. As
And-
opposed to the candle holder that sits in your drawer.
The candle holder or the wine opener, which I mean, some of us can use more than others.
Yep.
But they're usually, I mean, you want to make sure you stay away from nuts because that's kind of one of the big allergies when you're dealing with candy and that kind of stuff. But I don't think they've gone away. I think that the favor itself is kind of starting to go away, and then that's where
the candy
buffet and the
it's taking the
popcorn buffet
place
is
of
kind
the
coming in.
favor.
Yeah.
So there's no little favor at the place settings anymore.
Exactly. So if they're doing a candy buffet or a popcorn buffet, they're usually doing it in lieu of a favor, and they've got little bags and say, thank you for joining us or whatever, and they fill their bags out.
Oh yeah, I like that better anyways.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're sitting there stressing about what to get that everyone's going to like or everyone's going to use.
And you're not wrapping 300 little things of tulle around jars and...
Oh my God, I think about how many different little wrapping things that I used to do for friends of mine over the years. I think I had 3 or 4, I think I was a bridesmaid 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 times in the...
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please pour us more wine.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Did you want some more bread, ladies? Did you get some bread?
Oh, we did not see
We did not get bread.
Oh,
Well, thank you.
I like this boy.
I'm not even going to edit that part out. Our priorities. He refilled our glass and he's bringing us bread.
Cougars on the loose.
Woohoo! Okay, so we talked, so the food buffet, well, that's the whole thing about the favors thing, is that I know it used to be a lot of work and there was a lot of tradition behind it, and I always get sad about the lack of the tradition. I remember wasn't for my wedding, but I remember a couple of my cousins when they got married, it was, my grandmother made, I guess it was the groom's cake?
Yes. With
So the
rum
fruit
and
cake,
maraschino
so she
cherries.
made the fruit cake, and she had it all cut into little like finger-sized things, and I used to wrap it. My cousins and I would gather around the kitchen table, and one of us would wrap it in saran wrap, and then the other
then
person
you
would
do
put a
the
doily,
doily, and then
with
you
the
do the
ribbon.
ribbon.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we actually had some fun. We'd spend a whole day doing that, and it was a lot of fun. So those kind of traditions, I feel like they're going. And now that I'm older, I would actually eat that cake.
I will never, ever eat that cake, ever. I think the challenge behind it is it becomes, that's a lost art. There is no aunt or nonna or grandma who is making that fruit cake anymore. So the idea of actually going and paying to have it done and then wrapping it is just not in the realm of people's thinking anymore. And I agree. That was a huge thing when I was growing up. That and the confetti, the almonds. No, the almonds are steeped in tradition. I actually did a wedding this past spring, and I'm so unprepared. But there's 5 almonds, and they all stand for something. It's like wealth and fertility. And
Oh, okay.
There's 5 of them, and
They're all pastel
I'll send
colors,
you
right?
whatever the
Yeah.
5 is, so you can post it. But so that again is where the almonds came from, because we used to do that as well. We'd have the cake, and then we'd have the little bundle of almonds.
And the almonds were in the tool.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And so what's happened now is favors have replaced those things. They also used to have the matchboxes with people's names engraved on them. So all of those things that people were not excited about, because there were very few people who actually liked to eat those almonds, and not a lot like to eat the fruitcake. So what couples are doing, why they move more towards favors, is they moved away from those things that people were just throwing out at the end of the night, and we're trying to come up with something that was more useful. And like you said, the challenge is what's useful to the couple may not be as useful to their guests. My last wedding this year did these super cute little votive holder / shot glasses.
Okay.
And they filled them with Jelly Bellies.
Oh, that's cute.
Super cute. And I'd say about 3/4 of them were taken. But, the other quarter were just opened up. People ate the Jelly Bellies and left the glasses. Well, they paid a pretty penny for those glasses, so I was a little bit sad about it. But I get it. Like, I get it from both sides. As a guest, I love having a little favor. But I'm a hoarder. I like all these cute little things, and they get me excited. And as a host, I like the idea of providing something that reflects my personality, the theme of the day, as a keepsake for people. So I'm a big fan of it, but I also understand why some of my clients are moving away from it. So,
well, it might be because if budgets are an issue, something's got to go.
Yeah.
Right? And something like a candy or popcorn buffet, especially if it's a candy buffet, you can buy a lot of candy and then you can replace the stuff what's eaten with things that are less expensive, and whatever's left over doesn't go to waste.
Exactly. And what I've done on my candy buffets as well is I'll put some big items as well too, say marshmallows. Take up a lot of space and they're super cheap. Or you do popcorn as well, do like a caramel popcorn on your candy buffet as well, so that again, it's not all the, as soon as you start getting to all the pick and mix and color coordinated stuff, that's where it gets really expensive.
Yep.
But if you find ways to kind of complement those smaller ones with bigger items that will fill jars a little bit easier and fill those bags a little bit easier. That's another tip as well. Don't use the big, huge popcorn bags for your candy buffet, because then people are taking home $10 worth of candy per person.
Oh, that's crazy.
Just give them a little box or a little vessel that they can just bring it home in.
You can get all kinds of little cups, even at the dollar store. There's all kinds of little things for that. That's cool. Okay, so let's talk bar stuff. So is there any particular trends with, so what's the standard right now for, I don't want to say the open versus cash bar. We can get in a whole other episode just between those two things. But are they doing a cocktail hour before and then wine at dinner and then cocktails afterwards? Or are they doing more of a hodgepodge where everything's just by the glass? Are they even still doing wine on the tables or just having the bar open?
It's still pretty consistent with the cocktail hour. Wine on the tables during dinner. Some couples are choosing to keep the bar open during dinner for those who don't drink wine, and then your typical kind of free-for-all after dinner.
Yeah, free-for-all. That's fun. Are they, for the bar setup though, are they having a very extensive selection, or are they really narrowing it down? Because you can't please everybody.
And I think that's something that I do a lot of advising with my clients on, because they do want to please everyone. But what I am finding is, again, compared to when I was in catering 4 years ago, standard bar rail was acceptable by everyone. Your rye, rum, vodka, gin, scotch, and none of them were high-end.
Correct.
What I'm seeing more of is people are asking, well, what gin do you carry? Well, what whiskey are you carrying? Oh, well, do you have that? Do you have this instead? So they're starting to actually be a little bit pickier about what brands are on the bar, and they're willing to pay a little bit more to have the brands they like.
Well, that's good. Okay, so and then so they're just doing that standard rail. Are they doing any signature cocktails, or are they just doing this open standard?
We had a couple of years with signature cocktails where signature cocktails were huge. I'm still a fan of them, especially if you've got a budget, only because it limits what you're spending during your cocktail hour. That said, I haven't seen any of them at all this year, actually. I
used to always comment or suggest to them that if you want to keep your bar costs down, do a signature cocktail, beer and wine, and leave it that way. If you want to later at night open it up and bring extra things, or do some liqueurs after dinner, like they can have in their coffee or on the side, then you can have a few extra bottles, but it doesn't need to be this massive, because you're never going to please everybody of what they have.
We are in Canada, and all bars must have Caesars.
No, I have managed to convince out of them,
impressive.
and it's because I know it's a Canadian thing. However, if they know a lot of their friends have Caesars, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if the couple themselves aren't Caesar drinkers, it's one of those things that even people, since Caesars are contagious, it's like a Tim Hortons coffee thing. As soon as they see one person having one, everybody wants a Caesar. And nothing holds up your bar service more than having to do these complicated drinks. And Caesars are not ready-made to be done properly. So there ends up being... and especially the well-trained bartenders, like they know how to properly make a Caesar, and there's a procedure to it, and there's certain steps.
I agree.
And so you want to, if you get a bad Caesar, people will complain about it all night long. So you have to make that call.
I feel if you're doing Caesars, you need to have an extra bartender.
You do, but it's not cheap to have an extra bartender, and you almost have to have a Caesar station. Right? Like, keep those people away from the other ones who just want a glass of wine. Coming from the girl who's always standing in line behind someone who's got the long order, and all I want is a glass of red. It happens to me even at corporate events. It's just, I'm the easiest person. Oh, that's another little tip. So I need to do it at corporate events and stuff too, and I've advised other corporations that I've consulted for that if you're going to have, it's going to be a free-for-all in your bars and you want to get your bar service going faster, if you're only having one white and one red, anyways, pre-pour your glasses, please. Have another of 4 or 5. Have one at a certain station where it's just wine pickup. Someone can come in and grab a glass on their way in, greet your guests with a red or a white. This way they're not taking up time at the bar.
I've suggested that with signature cocktails as well.
Yep.
Have them pre-done, pre-in jugs.
And it actually looks... especially if you're greeting the guests as they're coming in.
Exactly.
That will basically speed things up for all the ones who want to go and get their Rye and Coke with a splash of this at the bar.
Yeah.
The ones who just wanted a glass of white wine, you're already greeting them like somebody's got trays or a table set up with stuff that's pre-poured, ready to go. Yes, right. It's not only smart and efficient, but you also get an idea of right away. A good bartenders will be able to notice how many are wine drinkers, what are cocktail drinkers, or whatever else, and they can gauge their night accordingly.
One thing I've noticed too with bars over the last 2 seasons is a resurgence in gin drinkers.
Yay to us,
right? I remember when I was doing when I was stocking bars, when I was catering. I mean, one bottle of gin might last me an entire season. Whereas every event I go to, they're running out of gin. It's like caterers haven't cut up to the fact that gin is so huge right now.
Well, it is, and I think it's partly because there's wine producers and there's breweries or whatever who are making other things, where they're all starting to distill things on the side. And gin is usually made with roughage, right? It's
wildflowers.
Traditionally, yeah. So it's herbs and. Okay, so food's here. So, I mean, we probably could be cutting that last part out. I can edit all this later, but... So what else that we haven't talked about? Candy bars? The drinks thing. So yes, gin's pretty big, but it's how it's made, and I get it. So there's more and more gin that's out there right now. And the classic... The traditional, cocktails are in
there's
again.
A resurgence of traditional cocktails. So not like the fruity, everything's based on sourpuss cocktails, but like old fashions and whiskey sour.
Oh, my sourpuss.
I might be dissing a little bit.
When I met my husband, we used to go and compete for shots.
Yeah, see, anything but sourpuss.
I used to win every time.
Oh, remind me to tell you the story of my husband and shots off podcast. I won't broadcast that to the world, honey. You're welcome. Tips for cutting costs. Trends for 2018. Creativity. Meal planning hiccups and barriers.
Okay. Here we go. Meal planning hiccups and barriers. Should we bring you cheese?
No, I didn't want cheese.
Oh, okay.
You know what I think, honestly? I think the biggest barrier is budget. You talk about things that are getting in the way of planning for your event. It's always budget, because we've got this in our mind that you can feed, a person for $20. And then it's so hard to change that mindset.
I never understood how somebody could come in for a consultation with me, and they would talk about what they wanted, and even just for an entree, and when I would throw it back at them saying, when did you go up to eat last? The other night. And how much was your bill? Right? So there's a good roundabout idea of what you should be expecting to be
That's
paying.
exactly what I tell people. Take your last night out, which is, $100 for the two of you. Mm-hmm. Now multiply that times 100 couples. And that's what you're starting at.
And I used to get frustrated because my comment would be, if you can't afford to pay 100 people and you have to have this 3-course or you have to have this style of menu, then you can't have 100 people. That's all there is to it. Mm-hmm. But then I know that there's sometimes they chose a different caterer than me because they found somebody who would do the $20 to $25 a person, and it would just be pans of
Pans of chicken and pasta.
Penny and tomato sauce with little bits of chicken in it.
Yeah.
Massive Caesar salad with mostly lettuce.
And no service involved.
And which is you know what? And I always wish I could go back afterwards saying, was it worth it? Mm-hmm. Because like you had mentioned earlier, it never fails that the next day when someone says, I went to a certain so-and-so's wedding last night, how was it? You're going to talk about the food and the music.
Yep. Very true. The food and the music, and whether you had to sit around waiting because you didn't know what was going on.
And the bride looked beautiful.
But the bride always looks beautiful.
Sorry, I've heard some stories when they haven't looked so good. Or they didn't like their dress or whatever, right? Girls can be funny that way, but for the most part, food and music are the big things, right? Yeah. Right? It was a big party, dinner was great, or whatever. So if your food was crap, everything else better have been top notch.
Exactly. And you know what? And to some people, that's okay. I mean, food's not a big deal for them. They're looking for comfort food. They're not looking for something fancy. Then go for it. But you still have to recognize that. Are you taking them out to, a nice restaurant, or are you taking them out to, I don't even know, a takeout place that only serves X, Y, and Z? And if that's what you're looking for, then perfect, then go for it. But if you're looking for that experience, it is not cheaper in bulk, contrary to what popular belief is. So here's a big myth that needs to be dispelled, and I only learned about it when I was working in catering. Mm-hmm. Wholesale food resellers does not mean cheaper. We did half of our grocery shopping at the grocery store or at Costco because it was cheaper than what we get from our wholesaler.
Correct. My wholesaler would even tell me things like produce was a big one. He could never touch Costco. So he would just say, okay, here's all the things that I'm going to order to get you through the season. Here's all the things on your list that you're going to go to Costco for. Like, remember the very first time I ordered with him, because I've known him for a long time, but the first time I ordered from him, he was sending me to Costco.
Yeah.
So you're still paying, and that's the whole thing. You still have to buy. It's not like you're buying the mixed greens for the salad by the portion. You're buying a container of it. So every container had so many portions in it, and if you only need a half a container, too bad.
Well, the thing is, what we don't think about is the fact that when a caterer is shopping, they're not getting discounts on food. So your food, there is no room to go cheaper because they're paying the same as you or I would to go and make the same quality meal. And if you think about how much it costs to I say Thanksgiving is my example.
Correct.
A lot of people will do a Thanksgiving or a Christmas meal. I mean, I'm sure I'm $1,000 in groceries at Christmas and Thanksgiving, just far between the meals and whatever else that you're doing that week or whatever. Again, you do that for 12 people. Say it costs you $500 to feed your family of 10 or 12. Now multiply that again times 10, and you're starting at the bottom of where you're going to be for your food.
And that's just the food cost. Labor is your next big one.
Exactly.
And I'm really concerned for if budget's already an issue for couples now. Minimum wage is going up, which means all your catering costs, your wedding costs,
everything's going up.
All your service, everything's going to go up. So now is the time where I think that they need to start reevaluating what their original plans were. So you may have had your little scrapbook of whatever of ideas and stuff that you've been doing for the last 2-3 years until you pop the question. Because some people I never had one of those, but I've heard about them.
That's amazing.
So you may have had this vision of what you've always wanted to do. Now you need to go back and rip pages out.
Honestly,
only keep the stuff that you're really going to need.
If you're working with a budget on your food, step away from Pinterest. Because when you see all the amazing spreads you see on Pinterest, They are amazing. They photograph amazingly, and you're looking at $100 a person for each meal.
It wasn't even Pinterest. Honest to God, those damn bridal shows on television, right, where they're competing and they're doing all these big things and they're down in the States. And I want to explain to them that, okay, but they don't tell you how much all these things cost.
That's a $100,000 wedding you're looking at.
And not
minimum.
to mention, most of those competition shows, a lot of the stuff is comped and or get discounted because things are donated and or sponsored in those things, right?
Now, interestingly, I was looking at an application for a couple of mine, and when it was a Canadian-based one, the couple had to be prepared. They had to show that they had the budget to pay for the wedding they wanted televised. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even covered or comped, or it was just like, oh, what, you want to be featured on a show? Show us your budget. Show us where the money's coming from, and then we'll talk about whether you're going to be on our show.
Yeah, because they don't want any.
Because they had no budget to pay for the wedding. It was they wanted to feature the wedding, but they didn't want to pay for it. So regardless, budget, yeah, is probably one of the biggest barriers to meal planning. And I think that moving on from budget, you're looking at family expectations, guest expectations. That's where we keep coming back to the chicken or beef debate, because it's expected. It's always been done this way in my family. I worked with this really lovely couple. She was super progressive. I mean, she showed me how to use half the stuff on my phone I didn't even know how to use, so I looked like an old lady next to her. But at the beginning, when we first started working together, she was really excited about maybe doing something because she was struggling with budget. And we were talking about doing market tables. We actually talked about not necessarily doing a hot dog bar, but she was a huge baseball fan, so we talked about maybe doing something around
so much
that.
Fun.
And having a fun wedding. She was a really fun girl. And at the end, she had to, bow to kind of familial expectations of chicken or beef. And they still had a very lovely wedding. But I know certainly from a budget standpoint, it was a real stress for her leading right up to her day. Because she started out with all these really, I'm going to go outside the box. But then that societal or family pressure brought her back to doing the same that everyone else does.
Well, I have to admit that one of those saddest cases was a girl I knew that was getting married. I think it was that last year that I was catering. And she was messaging me when she first got engaged. She was so excited. And she really wanted me to do her wedding. And because I used to cater for her business, her family's business for years before. She was very, very excited about it. And she was very insistent on, she wanted a very small wedding. She's always wanted one of those picture book, tiny backyard weddings, just her close family and friends and that kind of thing. And by the time she sent me an email probably about 3-4 weeks later, confirming the date and asking me if I could cater the groom's party the night before, because they had to go with someone else because they are now up to 240 people because all of a sudden the parents got involved with their guest list, their meal planning, their whole thing. So everything that she wanted, that she's always dreamed of, I'm thinking, and I didn't have the heart to ask her, but if she was paying for that, I would be telling her, I would almost want to talk her down off the ledge, saying, this is your wedding, it's your day, it's one thing. But if you're paying for it, they don't get to tell you what you want. But I think there's a lot of that kind of thing that's happening, which is unfortunate because you want to look back on that day where everything's positive, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I made a point of, like, these are the things, and I mean, Norm and I made a point of, even when we first got engaged, we had a conversation about what we wanted for our wedding before we even told people we were engaged.
Yeah.
Because we knew the conversations were going to go, right?
Thank you.
How do we do on the meal, ladies? You're enjoying it?
So far, so good.
Just so you know, we're not in a hurry because we're working while we're doing this, so that's okay.
That's no worries at all.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'm here all night as well, so
Thank you.
let me know if you want another bottle. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank
I will,
you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, bring me. Forget it. I got the wine list. Don't forget. Get it.
Yeah, no worries.
I forgot I tucked it in the back.
We just didn't even bother. We just ran away and got married. We asked our parents, we said, how do you guys feel like going maybe to the beach somewhere south when we get married? And we gauged it based on that. They both were like, we're so in, done and done.
Yep. Well, we knew the very first thing we did, we got engaged away from here. Mm-hmm. So on our way home from getting engaged, we were already talking on the plane about, we've always been traveling for the last few years together, and we've always been going around the same time. We really should have the wedding at this time and somewhere away. And then we had to have the discussion about, let's go through the entire family tree on both sides.
And who's going to complain? Who's going to have an issue? Yeah.
and we had to be okay with some could, some couldn't.
Yeah.
Some, and what were our priorities, and how could we change the pricing, timing we wanted the people to be there who wanted to be there. It's not like we were asking them to go away every year. They had an entire year to save up for it.
Yeah.
For those who wanted to be there, they'd be there. But at the end of the day, we were both completely more than okay with how everything turned out. And yes, it would have been nice to have other different people there on top of who was already there.
Yeah.
But as long as everyone who was there was happy, that's all I cared about.
And that's how we were as well too. We knew, like, I didn't have any of my friends come. My husband had a couple of friends who are my friends as well attend, but we said, you know what, us and our parents, and beyond that, if no one else makes it, no one else makes it, and we were happy with it. And I mean, but you have to be okay. So here's the thing with weddings, right? You're going to disappoint someone,
and it's okay.
There is no way to make everyone happy, and I think that a lot of the stresses that my clients feel are around needing to make Nona happy, needing to make Aunt Susie happen, needing to make sure that Uncle Henry has what he needs, and I get that as a hostess and as someone who likes to host people in my home. I can completely appreciate that. But what experience has shown me is that it's just impossible. Someone's not going to be super stoked about something, which is okay, because that's life, and life has some disappointments. So recognize that, make sure that you're having the day of your dreams, you're having the food that you enjoy, the bar is stocking the stuff that you like, and people should just be happy to show up and have a nice day at your expense.
What I used to like to tell people was that 10 years from now, it's more important for you to be looked back on your wedding with pleasure as opposed to your guests. So people don't realize when we're getting married, and this is going back to the catering thing, and this is just because we were talking about caterers. When you order a menu for a wedding, you need to ask a number of questions in advance. So, what is included with the price per person? Don't just assume saying, okay, well, it includes the serving staff, it's a plate of dinner, whatever else. It doesn't mean the staff's going to be there all night.
Doesn't mean they're going to clear the plates.
It doesn't mean that they are there to help cut your cake and serve your cake at the end of the night. Doesn't mean that they're going to be there to help serve your pizza that you ordered for your late night thing. Doesn't mean that they're going to be there to take out the garbage. Even if they are there, that's probably not their job.
Yeah.
They may not, and little things. If you want them to be clearing alcohol and helping out with the bar when things are, you got to specify, are they going to be Smart Serve certified and they are the right age? There's all these things that people just assume, like they're going to a restaurant, right? They're going to pay this much per person and everything's just going to fall into place.
Don't forget rentals like plates and tableware and glassware
and tablecloths
and disposables later on. Something else that even I've got some caterers who actually have you order the chafing dishes and the serving utensils as well. So check with your caterer to make sure that they have all of that. And if they don't, you need to get a list from them because that's going to add to the cost.
Oh, that's a good idea. So I'm going to provide as an attachment, if I can find it in my old things, a sample proposal that I used to do for weddings, just showing how I worded things in the breakdown. So you can use it as a negotiating tactic for your caterers, but just basically to show them that, okay, so it was just how it was worded, what things were included, what things weren't. So I actually would list okay, here's your serving staff, because I'd have the conversations of, okay, you want somebody. It's surprising how the old days used to be. Do you remember the old days?
No, I don't remember old days.
There were old days where bridesmaids used to go to the hall ahead of time and decorate and set things up. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, well, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
They like to come in with the bride like a princess, and it's not a bad. It's not that it's a bad.
That's
thing,
how I
fine.
have a job.
It is, but it's surprising how people don't realize that while setting the table,
Someone needs to set the table.
someone needs to set the table, and someone needs to put those favors that you wanted on the table, and somebody needs to. And the florist that you ordered for the centerpieces, they just drop them off. And if you had a specific design of what you wanted on the tables, you either need to put someone in charge of it, and/or you have to ask someone to do it for you, which usually means paying someone to do it for you.
As a planner, we'll place centerpieces, we'll place favors, but we don't place table settings. So laying out plates, laying out chargers,
Correct.
laying out silverware,
and
water
I
glasses.
never minded having my team do it, but I do have to pay them by the hour. So if you want them there 2 hours prior to your dinner to set the tables, I need to add that into your cost.
Yeah, and for us, we add
It's
extra
not
team members.
And honestly, depending on the size of the wedding, to have a couple of extra people, at $15 an hour to come in and do it, it's well worth the extra expense.
It's definitely worth it, but you got to remember the budget. For
But
it.
you have to, you have to start thinking of every single thing that you want done in that space. Who's going to do it? If you can't find somebody in your own family, friends, or whatever who are going to do it for you, you need to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And it's either going to be staff of the wedding planner, which is yourself, or it's going to be someone from the catering staff and or venue staff. But somebody has to do it, and they will need to get paid.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that they used to always surprise me. And I mean, I had such a great team. There's some of them that stayed way longer than they should have, because how people used to bail at the end of the night, and the venue staff would be gone, and the catering. My staff are still putting out garbage and clearing off tables at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that kind of stuff, and we did it because we don't want the end of the day to have bad feelings with anybody. And yes, it's someone's wedding day, so yes, we're going to help take care of it, but it really shouldn't be on us. And I still remember, actually, it's probably that clip that I might tie in, but Alex was still talking. He goes, "Do you remember that time at that wedding at the arena where they had a cleaning staff that came in? If you want to make people happy, it was the happiest day. I mean, we've never had that before, where they actually showed up and they said, okay, well, whenever you pack up your stuff, they said, we're here to take over." And this was like at 2:30 at night. Most of the staff, except for the last overly intoxicated people, were still kicking around. All we had to do is pack up the stuff, and they said, "Do you want help?" And they said, "No, leave it. We do the garbage. We do this. We do this. We do this."
Nice.
They said it's included with their hall rental price. I think every venue should have their own cleaning staff, because it was lovely.
Well, and again, you did a lot of on-site catering at people's homes and in backyards and in places that didn't typically hold events as well, right? Whereas if you're renting with a more traditional venue, those cleanup services are included. We just have to put garbage in garbage receptacles, and they would take it away.
I went to a lot of city venues, that kind of stuff. No, they're not.
No, it's not included. No, it isn't in the city venues. No, I agree.
That's right. No.
Again, don't get us started on our city and the barriers.
It's a whole other bylaws are going to be a whole other episode. So so that was going to be the tip. So I'll put a sample proposal, and I do want to talk about the whole catering thing in general, but I want to talk about for weddings specifically. But there's a lot of things that people. So when you're talking about family style earlier, one of the things that I did for one of the weddings, because we were trying to control portions, and I was already warning them that I like the idea of family style, but you almost need to have someone serving it to them.
Yeah.
So, and not to mention the different things that they wanted on their table. Like they were setting,
having room for it.
They were squeezing 10 people at a table for 8.
Yeah.
Right? With number of
Which doesn't
courses, and there was 3 proteins, 3 sides.
Okay, that's just too much food.
It was just crazy. So I said the only way to do it is I had to have staff stand there with the platter of pork, and then serving it on people's plates what they wanted. And the people were fussy, but one thing, so I had to have extra staff. So it just took longer. So that's one of the things you need to figure out in the long run. If you are on a time crunch, as almost every wedding's on a schedule, if you're on a time crunch, make sure that you have more staff than you need so that you can make things run right on schedule. Because if you decide to cut back on staff thinking, well, that's just going to take me longer or whatever, or it's going to save me money by having less staff, not really, because it's going to take you longer to serve, so you're just basically extending the night out and pissing people off in the meantime, right?
Yeah. Rant mode off.
What?
Rant mode off.
Rant mode off.